Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another edition of the DC Capstone Report podcast. I'm glad all of our listeners are tuned in again this week. We appreciate all of you who listen in each week and support this podcast, and we appreciate all those feedback that we get. Today on the podcast, we're going to take a look at this past week's scrimmage. In the first segment, we're going to review the offense offense from this last week's scrimmage, and in the second segment, we're going to take a look at the defense in the scrimmage. And in the third segment, we're going to take a look at upcoming spring practice and what couple of things that need to be worked on by the team. And finally, as we close out the podcast, I'll have a little update on the Alabama new basketball coach, Nate Oaks.
The DC Capstone Report is featured each Tuesday morning on Tide 102.9, The Morning Blitz with Martin Houston. You can listen live at Tide1029.com.
Well, in this first segment today, we're going to take a look at the scrimmage, and we're going to look at the offense. What happened in the offense in the scrimmage? Well, the scrimmage was closed to the public, and so I did not get to actually see it personally, but I had several people that I knew that were going to be there that gave me updates from the scrimmage. There was no statistics released. The only thing that's released are the things that have been leaked out, like the sources that I have that were there. But I talked to several people who went, and overall, I thought it was a good offensive day. So in this first segment, we're going to take a look at the offense and kind of discuss some of the things that my sources have told me happened in the scrimmage. First, from an overall perspective, it looks like that the offense under Sarkisian was a little more slowed down, ball control, run the ball, set up the pass type offense. That's something we've been talking about here on the podcast for several weeks, thinking that's what's going to take place. So there was a little less RPOs, a little more play action passes. What that means is it looked like, from what people were telling me, that the game is kind of slowed down for Tua this year. And if, believe it or not, he's even better this year than he was last year. It looks like he's going to be able to flourish in this offensive system that he's working in. When I say the game is slowed down, they're asking him to do a progression of the entire field, but not make such quick decisions that you have to make in the RPO offense. So giving a little more time. So the offensive line know when he's going to pass the ball, and therefore they're giving him more protection on those pass plays. They don't have to guess whether it's going to be a run or going to be a pass option type style. So they know when they're in a pass blocking situation. And therefore he's getting a little more time to survey the field and get it to the playmakers. And boy, do we have some playmakers in our wide receiving core this year. In this particular scrimmage, the sources tell me that Tua looked really good. One of them said he was throwing dimes, in other words, just putting it right on the spot. And he was throwing deep balls in this play action passes, stretching the defense during the thing. He was hitting his receivers on the slants, on the cuts. He was hitting out of the backfield, throwing some to our tight end. So he spread the ball around good, did a good job. And so offensively, it looks like the quarterback position is solidified going into this year. Tua is number one. Sources also tell me that Mac Jones did pretty good. He's kind of entrenched himself as that backup quarterback. No controversy there, but if Tua goes down, it looks like he'll be the first man up to kind of fill in and take that position. Should something happen to Tua. That's another great thing overall. And no one on the offensive side of the ball was injured. No injuries during this scrimmage. So, this time last year, Tua, in the last two spring practices, Tua had either hurt himself either in his legs, his knees, or his hand. And so this year he came through this first scrimmage unhurt, and so did all the other offensive players on the team. So no major injuries to report. That's a great thing. Another thing on the offense is it looked like that our running game really has cranked up under this new offensive style under Steve Sarkisian. The offensive line appears to be bulked up. We have some large offensive linemen playing in the guard positions and the center position, and it looked like they were built to really run that ball. And from all the sources I heard, Najee Harris, Brian Robinson, and Jerome Ford had exceptional days out of the backfield on offense. So I look for our running game to really be good. So it appears that everyone was pleased with our running game. A name that maybe not heard much is Tre'Davious Townsend. It seems like Tre'Davious Townsend's come over from the receiving corps, and now he's playing on the offensive backfield and running the ball, kind of that scat back, that change of pace back, maybe like a Josh Jacobs. Also has the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. Also, I heard that Jerome Ford was catching the ball real well out of the backfield as well. So our offense with our quarterbacks and our running backs seem to really be solidified. And the offensive line, although Matt Womack was not in his normal guard place where I heard he'd been playing guard, across the front, they had Alex Leatherwood and Jedrick Wills at the tackle positions, had Chris Owens at the center, and then Emil Achior at one guard position and Evan Neal at another. So large offensive line playing there. Look for Matt Womack to come back from his injury and be able to play. Maybe when Deontay Brown gets out of the doghouse and serves his NCAA suspension, he might contribute as well. So looks like we're going to have a good offensive line this year from an offensive perspective, especially running the ball and pass protection. Look good in this first scrimmage. Well, everybody wants to talk about the new freshman sensations on the offensive side of the ball as far as the quarterback. And, of course, everybody wants to know how did Talia do to his younger brother. Well, so the reports I got was he did really well on some things and then not so well on others. So just some freshman mistakes, some mental errors were there. And he got to play a little bit with the twos and then played most reps with the threes. And then Paul Tyson took a few reps as well. Both of those are young. Both of those guys are young. Five-star quarterbacks coming in, and they're going to take their time to develop. I don't think it's going to be pushed for them to play a lot. Of course, with the new redshirt rules, they can play 4 games and still be redshirted. So look for them to get some playing time. But most of the reps, I think, this season are going to go to Tua and Mac Jones, his backup. As far as our receivers, the one thing that kind of jumped out was that, Henry Ruggs III was not available for this spring scrimmage because he had a death in the family and he was excused. Had an excused absence where he went to a funeral there in his hometown, so he was not there. But they really gave an opportunity for the next man up, step up, and this young freshman who reported in January named John Michie. Listen for that name here down the road. He really took advantage of his opportunity to come in there and play. Had a couple of touchdown passes, so that's a name I want you to take notice of, because down the road, if he plays himself into some playing time, he might be somebody that we take a look at down the road, John Michie. But apparently he did really well in the scrimmage. Another thing that 2 people told me was that, last year Jalen Waddle just jumped off the page as this athletic player, and he did a great job during the season, and we saw what great speed and athleticism that he had. Well, everybody that saw him in that scrimmage Saturday said that Jalen Waddle has upped his game. He is better. He's faster, quicker. Now imagine a faster, quicker Jalen Waddle. He was leaving people behind last year, but I'm excited to see a faster, quicker Jalen Waddle. And that's not uncommon. You get your most jump in your athleticism and your quickness in this program, in this fourth quarter program, coming from your freshman to your sophomore year. So it's not unheard of to really see someone have an uptick in performance. So look for Jalen Waddle to just really increase his production this year. Jerry Jeudy was catching the ball everywhere they threw it to him. His hands were just so good. Caught some great plays from both Tua and Mac Jones. So I think it's important for us to realize the depth that we have in wide receiver. We're not even mentioning Devontae Smith. He had an excellent scrimmage as well. So just look for Henry Ruggs to be back in the next scrimmage and participate, and that but I'm going to go ahead out on a limb and say it. That is going to be this year the best wide receiving corps in the nation. So I think hands down Alabama has the best wide receiving corps in the nation. Well, some things on offense that didn't look very good. Well, I still think there's a thinness at the tight end production there, with Kendrick James being suspended for 4 games in the NCAA. You look for where's the depth going to come from. Well, you got your Miller Forrestall and your Major Tennyson, but a name that I had never heard of kind of jumped out in this scrimmage. 4 different people told me you got to watch this kid. It's a walk-on senior named Giles Amos. Now, I had to go look it up. I didn't even know what position he played. I had no idea who he was, to be honest with you. I had to look it up. But he is a walk-on who's been in the program for 4 to 5 years. He is a senior and just waiting for his time. And it happened in this scrimmage that because of the thinness that we have at the tight end position, that he had an opportunity to step up, and when he made the most of his opportunity, and people started noticing him in this scrimmage, and he caught a touchdown pass against the number 1 defense. So Giles Amos is a name that you can look for going down. But the road. But overall, the offense did a great job, and just excited about what we've got to see this coming year. And that's just the first scrimmage of the year. And you're supposed to think that the defense will be ahead of the offense, but if I'm not mistaken, everyone that reported back to me said the offense was way ahead of where they were this time last year. And so we'll look for big things out of the offense in our next scrimmage. Well, in our second segment here, we're going to take a look at the defense coming out of the scrimmage. Defense overall played well. They're playing against probably what I would consider one of the best offensive in the nation. And you had ones on ones. So some of the reports I got back was that our defensive ends, where we've been a little hurt with injuries last year, Terrell Lewis is still sitting out. Anthony Jennings and Chris Allen were with the ones in the defensive end position, and just really did a good job. But the one person that jumped off the page in the defensive end was Iyabi Anoma. Many of you out there listening may remember he flirted with the idea of transfer, maybe want to go back to hometown of Maryland. When Coach Loxley went there, he went to the portal for a little while, came back out, and he stuck with it. Everybody that reported back to me from this scrimmage said that he had a different attitude, showed a great athleticism, and showed a great quickness, first step to get to the quarterback and beat our first team tackles to get and harass and interrupt the quarterback and make some sacks in this scrimmage. So Iyabi Anoma is a name to mention that's going to contribute. You get Terrell Lewis back from his injury. You got Iyabi Anoma, Anthony Jennings, and Chris Allen. If he stays healthy, then you got some really good players there on a defensive end position that can put pressure on the quarterback, any quarterback. The defensive line, I heard that the ones played relatively well. We got Raekwon Davis, LeBron Ray, and Fadarian Mathis, but there seems to be a drop-off into the second string, second defensive line. We've always had some people to come in. In this particular scrimmage, Coach Saban said afterwards that maybe the first team did well, but that second team has not got it yet. Too many mental errors. So look for them to have to improve between the first scrimmage and the second scrimmage, see what those second teamers, such as a freshman sensation, Alfano, and then you got, of course, Christian Barrymore, Stephon Wynn, Davida Muska, that can contribute as well. So look for them to make how they do in this next scrimmage, see if they've made an improvement over their showing in the first scrimmage. I'm going to talk about the defensive backs. I'm going to skip the linebackers for a minute, go back to defensive backs. Really, in this whole scrimmage, it looked like the defensive backs did great. And when I say they did great, they had some plays that were made on them. But you got to remember, I feel like, as I said before, they're going against the number one offensive wide receiving core in the nation. So every day they're going to hone their skills to get better against some of the best receivers in the nation. But they lined up and got beat on some plays, but did good on some plays as well. So I look for Trayvon Diggs. He played well. Josh Jobe played well. Patrick Surtain. You got Xavier McKinney is still doing a great job. Shyam Carter, still, of course, is still recovering from his injury. But all those played really good. But one name that jumped out that I had not heard before is the freshman who reported earlier named Scooby Carter. I believe he's number 11. But a couple of people who reported back to me said that he really jumped off the page at him as an athletic defensive back that was able to keep up with our wide receivers. He got beat on a couple of plays, but it's not uncommon for our great wide receivers to do that, especially to a freshman. So they really did a good job in this. Our wide receivers really look well. Our defensive backs really look well against our wide receivers. So look for them to continue to improve. Well, overall, defensively, the spotlight has to be placed on our middle linebackers. It appears to be the weakest link on our team. Coach Saban spoke about it. After Dylan Moses, who do you go to, and who's the go-to guy? I don't think that even after this first scrimmage that they've decided who that go-to guy is going to be, who's going to be the next man up. You got several people competing for that job, like Joshua McMillan, Markel Benton. But it could be still open as we leave spring practice going into the summer when some freshmen report. So that is the weak link. We didn't do a good job last year of having some backups, giving them quality playing time. Just didn't think we had that luxury to do that. And we just haven't had an opportunity to see that growth in those backups in the early spring. So that's an area that we need to concentrate on for next week's scrimmage to see how they do, and then over in the A-Day on the 13th to see how they progress. But right now, I would say on our defensive linebackers is our weakest link. Dylan Moses is doing a great job, and I think he's upped his leadership skills. Coach Saban's looking for leaders people who are going to up their leadership skills to be leaders on the team. And I think that he has done that. And Dylan Moses is the guy that's the go-to guy there. But who that second person is and who the backups are going to be is still left to be determined. Overall, I think a pretty good defense is showing against a great offense. I look for seeing out of the second scrimmage to see who steps up and what kind of improvements are made. So overall, I think we're going to have a good defense going into the year so far, and we've got a really great offense going into the year so far. Well, on our third and final segment here, we're going to take a look in the early part of it about what can we do, what to look in this second segment, some areas need to work on. On offense, I think it's clear that our weakest link on offense that we need working on is our tight ends. I think we're going to have to determine who our tight ends are going to be and get them some reps because we got Kendrick James. We're going to miss at least 4 games at the beginning of the year. We got some players coming in when they report in the fall or summer to practice for the fall. But right now, who is going to develop out of these? Are we going to have anyone step up? I think we talked about Jyle Amos being that walk-on, but how is Miller Forstall? One question we're going to have to answer is how is he? Has he come back completely from his injury? Is he going to be able to complete at a high level? Is Major Tennyson coming back from his setbacks that he's had, injury-wise and off-the-field issues that he's had? Is he going to be able to come back? Is there somebody else that will step up? Is there another Giles Amos on the team that we don't know about yet? What we see out of these future scrimmages. But that tight end position is a very important position in this offense. We're going to run the ball. We got to have a lot of effort on tight ends to block and do their blocking assignments, but also be able to catch the ball in pass plays because Coach Sarkisian likes to throw to the backs and the tight ends off the line of scrimmage while our wide receivers are occupying all the space. So I think that's something we're going to have to do on offense is really identify and get our starters and our depth there at the tight end position. On defense, I mentioned it earlier in the second segment, but the most improvement we got to make on defense has got to be in our middle linebacker position. We're going to have to establish a guy who's going to be the second guy to Dylan Moses, who's going to be the backups to that guy and to Dylan Moses. So we got at least 3 positions there we got to solidify. Is Josh McMillan going to do it? Is it going to be Markel Benton? Is there somebody else on the team that might step in that position? Could somebody be moved from another position to that position, or maybe it'd be one of those incoming freshmen like Shane Lee? Will he step up? Will be Chris Harris? He might step up. Will Ben Davis ever emerge? He was injured in this of a shin splints in this particular scrimmage, but he's going on his senior year and he's never blossomed into the player that we all thought he would be coming out of high school. So there's a lot of things left to be determined about the defensive linebacker core. And also that second-tier defensive lineman, who's going to step up and fill those gaps there. That's something we'll look for in the next scrimmage to determine. And finally, the other cog that I haven't spoken about yet that's really a weak link, everybody that I talked with, although it seemed like Coach Saban kind of sugarcoated a little bit in his press conference, everybody that I talked with said that our kicking game, we're not talking about returners here or blockers, we're talking about the kicker. And I think Coach Saban is as concerned about it as everybody else is in making the kicks. And we had the freshman kicker, Will Reichard from Hoover, that's there. And then you got Joseph Bulovas, you got Skylar DeLong, punter, but Will Reichard's also a punter. I think all 3 of them took reps kicking the ball, and all 3 of them had misses. I think another concern is kicking the ball off and getting into the end zone. I don't think Reichard kicked it off as well as they thought he could do. He's got a great leg, but somehow just didn't show it in this scrimmage. And then in punting, I don't think we had a lot of punts that went long yardage, over 35, 40 yards punt. So we don't have that go-to punter that can get us out of a jam. We don't have that go-to kicker that can make that field goal when we need it right now. So I think that's a weak link in our special teams. And we're going to have to develop, coming out of this spring practice, a kicker who can do the kickoffs, handle kickoffs, who can do the extra points and field goals, and who can punt. And it may be a combination of all 3 of these guys, but somehow, somewhere, somebody's got to step up and take the reins here. So I think that's another issue that needs to be determined maybe in our upcoming second scrimmage of the year. Well, finally on the podcast today, I just want to take a note out there. Alabama has hired a new basketball coach since we were here before. Nate Oates has been hired. I'm excited. If you're an Alabama fan, listen to me out there. You should be excited. Everything I've heard from him, everything he said tells me he's a Saban type coach. He said he's read every book on Coach Saban he could. He's a process-oriented coach. I think he's going to come in here, and he's already hit the ground running. We've already got a recruit that's committed, a 6'9", 6'10" center out of California has committed. He is going hard after Trendon Watford, the Mr. Basketball of Alabama out of Mountain Brook. He's going hard after him. And so I think he's hit the ground running, trying to recruit some of our own players to stay that maybe went into transfer portal. But I love what he said. Maybe some of those in the portal needs to stay in the portal. So I think he's after his type of player to play his type of ball. And I believe that ball is going to be fast and furious, both on the offensive end and the defensive end. I believe right now is an exciting time if you're an Alabama basketball fan. Don't give up on us. He said something that I really appreciated. He said this: if Alabama can compete for national championships in every other sport, like football we have, and gymnastics we have, and softball we have, there's no reason that we can't compete for a national championship in basketball. So I'm looking forward to the Nate Oates era, and as we get little tidbits that come up, I know he's got one staff position on it. He's going to fill with one person on his staff now. There'll be two others to let go. So that means that he's going to bring somebody in from Buffalo and maybe hire another coach that's not on the staff now. So at least one of those coaches will remain. And then he's already let go the strength and conditioning coach. I think that's been one weak link in our basketball team is strength and conditioning. And he's brought in a guy that's going to get them in shape to run and gun like he loves to play fast on both ends of the court. So I'm excited about Alabama basketball, and as we get more updates, I'll try to update you in the podcast each week. Well, until next week, this is DC signing off for the DC Capstone Report.